Okay, good evening. We will call to order the November 27th meeting of the Pinellas County Charter Review Commission. My name is Brian Ongst. I am the chair and have been appointed by Commissioner LaValla. Starting with my right with Senator DeSigli, if all the commissioners would introduce themselves for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nick DeSegli, Pinellas Delegation appointee.
Dave Eggers, County Commission, and also the Pinellas County Commissioners appointee.
Mark Strickland, appointed by Commissioner Janet Law.
Rob Posovic, appointed by Commissioner Eggers.
Todd Jennings, at-large citizen appointee.
Doug Thomas, a CRC facilitator.
Ricky Butler, Commissioner Peters appointee.
Mike Twitty, Constitutional Officers appointee.
Okay, and we have our Vice Chair, Lindsay Grove, is joining us via Zoom. Lindsay, can you unmute yourself and just make sure that works?
Yep. Hi. I'm here at large Commissioner Dr. Lindsay Grove.
Perfect. All right. That's great. We will go ahead and do the public comment now. We have one person in person and we have one person on Zoom. First, we'll start with Mr. Ballard Geddes, who is here in person, and you shall have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. David Ballard Geddes, Jr. I live at 802 Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. Based on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife National Wetland Inventory, my sprinkler system qualifies my lawn as an artificially excavated, intermittently inundated riparian wetland. As classified, it creates a man-made wetland out of my property using lawn irrigation, manifesting an artificial plustron system using our sprinkler systems as its apparatus to aid a contrived appropriation claim claiming eminent domain of our property in Statute 15303, Section 5, using the reclaimed water variance application to gain our consent and soldier us in our homes under the Third Amendment, invoking an annual inspection surveillance charge of my property, charging a fee for the privilege of using water as based on Maloney's Water Code. Statute 373.019, Section 15, promulgates such artificial method in the formulation of a government that is intending on reconstituting itself in Statute 373.715 based on such artificial riparian stakehold, insurrecting regulatory schemes that are intending to benefit privateers, private individuals insurrected under the 14th Amendment in their establishing of individual, independent, despotic water jurisdictions, appropriating my liberty, my property, and my life as constituted, conducting actual warfare in the Fifth Amendment, seen as an actual invasion in Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, deaf to the voice of justice, as written in the Declaration of Independence. The unclassified position in Pinellas County Home Rule Charter, Section 4.01C-2, is in reality an undisclosed position held in secrecy in Article 1, Section 5 of the U.S. Constitution, artificially giving rise to a second constitution contrived and invoked under the 14th Amendment artificially as a water jurisdiction, a usurpation process revealing the hypocrisy of Hamilton's first constitution as, again, being a bill of attainder, a letter of marque, a form of reprisal. Again, I say this before us is a high seas act of constitutional covetry and contempt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I do see one person in Zoom, Mackenzie. If you wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, I believe you need to raise your hand in the Zoom platform, and our folks will be able to unmute you.
Mr. Chair, I think you're going to need to let her know she needs to unmute herself.
Okay, Mackenzie, you will need to unmute yourself. I apologize. If you wish to speak during items not on the agenda. If not, no need to do that. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes from the November 1st meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those are approved unanimously. Mackenzie, I see that you have unmuted yourself. Did you wish to speak during public comment?
She has not, Mr. Chair. I have just removed the permission to talk.
Okay. Moving on now to item 5, background housekeeping information, and we'll go to 5A with Mr. Thomas, CRC member, email address migration, any remaining issues. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know this has been a bit of a challenge. I want to do quick head count if everyone has been able to make that conversion work, because we do have a CRC assigned personnel with the county's BTS system that can help you assist in that transition. I know that there's been some difficulties if you're using a work-related email and syncing that up, but Mr. Chair, were you able to get yours resolved today as well or not?
I'm just going to keep operating under the,
The 365.
the current system that we've been using. So
Okay. So if you are still having problems in that conversion, why don't you catch me at the end of the meeting and I'll get you the contact information for the BTS staff member that will be assigned to that to see if we can make that process work a little easier for you.
Okay. 5B, operating rules, procedures, and information regarding public participation in future CRC meetings via Zoom.
Great. And the second topic on that, I know that Commissioner Eggers had requested that we set up a process to allow individuals to participate via Zoom. Obviously, we're in that this evening, so we have at least one member that's involved with that. We're able to work through the logistics of that right before the holiday season. So we appreciate the chair's ability to kind of multitask and run that process in order to make that available. So that'll be part of the regular efforts, and it'll be on the home site for the CRC going forward as well, so people can register and participate remotely.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner Eggers, yes.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that on our website, where we have the charter review information, it talks about the 5 p.m. the day before, just like we're doing on the county commission procedures.
The game, in order to make this work for this meeting, we weren't able to get all the pre-registration happening because it was right before the holiday, but that is the game plan so that it will be a very consistent process and seamless for any of your residents that would be accessing your BOCC meetings.
You're right, because it would have happened Sunday at 5 or something.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was a little bit different, but I think that gives everybody a chance plenty of time to register, and it works really well, I think, so.
That's what, yeah, our thought was to be consistent. We just figured, given the timing of being able to go live with Zoom, we were going to just relax those rules for this particular meeting.
So going forward, members of the public who wish to participate via Zoom need to register online on the county website by 5 p.m. on the business day prior to the meeting. Okay. Moving on to item 6, discussion with Pinellas County Attorney Jewel White regarding Charter Section 4.02. We're privileged to be joined by the county attorney here today. And Mr. Vose, I don't know if you want to introduce the topic or if we want to just invite Attorney White to go ahead and introduce the topic and discuss.
Sure, I can go ahead and tee it up a little bit. And Jewel, if you could perhaps, the podium work, Chairman? Sure. Jewel, if you wouldn't mind joining us up here to be able to chat with the commissioners. Commissioners, good evening. As you'll recall, one of the items the commission was interested in looking at further was related to Section 4.02 of the charter relating to the county attorney. And the county attorney's office in particular, the procedures relating to the appointment and removal of the county attorney. The particular discussions you have had previously have related to, first, a review of the unique circumstances in the Pinellas County Charter that arose from the 2016 Charter Review Commission efforts, where the county attorney is selected by the County Attorney Oversight Committee, consisting of the Board of County Commissioners as well as the 5 constitutional officers. But a particular question had come up as to the more specific thresholds for the hiring and termination of the county administrator versus the county attorney. And so there was a question as to whether there might be some interest in further elaborating those standards and potentially applying them to the county attorney. So as the chairman has noted, we're joined today by Jewel White, the Pinellas County attorney, and she has agreed to come and speak with you all about her thoughts, and is glad to entertain any questions.
Good evening. Again, Jewel White, County Attorney. And I don't, have a lot to share with you all. I was contacted by Wade that said that this topic had come up. I don't know how well you all can see this, but I did bring both provisions. Really, the provision that speaks to the county attorney, I honestly can't recall what used to be in there before the Oversight Committee was created as far as a potential voting threshold for hiring, well, really for termination. It's silent now. So the provision is completely silent. It's an odd number for a public board only because it's an even number. It's 12 folks. It's, as you all know, it's the 7 county commissioners and the 5 constitutionals. We've got Commissioner Eggers and our property appraiser here that sit on that board. They could certainly share their insights from being there. They've both been on that board for a number of years. Well, really since I was hired. I was hired in 2017 as the county attorney. And I think this was 2016, it went into the charter, so I was the first county attorney hired under this. I know some of the first couple meetings were, I think, interesting for the new committee to get together and sort of feel their legs and how things would work out. But basically the committee at this point, after I was hired in 2017, they would meet twice a year, usually in January and July. It's gotten down to just once a year now. And it's a big group of people to try to get together. It's 12 folks. But, when Wade contacted me about this, I would certainly be interested. I don't think that I need a supermajority protection as far as termination goes. But nonetheless, I do think it would be consistent with the provisions for the county administrator. And I'm not going to be the county attorney here forever. I think it is a good idea to have those two things equal because those are the two main employees that get hired by the board in the case of the county administrator, but by the board plus the constitutionals in my case. And the reason why, for any of you all that might not have the background on it, the charter does also provide that I represent the 5 constitutional officers. And that's a bit unique in the state of Florida, not completely unique. And I would say that we do the legal work, a range for the constitutional officers. I'd probably put maybe Ken Burke at the high end of that range and the sheriff at the low end of the range. So we do almost everything for Ken. We do quite a bit for Mike, although I know he does have an attorney on staff. We handle his litigation. Same thing really with the tax collector. The supervisor of elections has recently brought an attorney onto her staff because of the daily public records requests and things that have just become a way of life for the elections office. We do handle her litigation and all of the canvassing board representation. But I do think, honestly, I know that there were some diverging opinions back at the time that this provision was introduced into the charter in 2016. I frankly like it. I think it works out well. My office does, in fact, represent both the county commission and all 5 of the constitutionals. I left out the sheriff. The only thing we really do for him at this point is his workers' compensation cases, but we do handle those. So I think it's worked out pretty well. I know that the 2 folks on the committee could speak to it. But again, on behalf of me and all the future county attorneys, I do think it would be, I think it would be fair to the person in the county attorney's position to have the same protection as the county administrator. This is silent as to what it would take to terminate the county attorney, so I would presume that that would be a majority vote. 12-member board, that would be 7. The county administrator, if you can read this, to terminate the county administrator, there would either have to be a single supermajority vote or 2 successive majority votes at regularly scheduled meetings. So that I think would be a fair thing to add in for the county attorney as well. And I'll stop at that unless anybody has questions.
Thank you, County Attorney White. So just to delve into that a little bit, and obviously we're just starting this process, and so this is the first kind of substantive issue we're looking at, so I don't think we have any real clear direction yet on what, if anything, we might be proposing regarding this section. But given the uniqueness that there are 12 members of the County Attorney Oversight Committee and there are 7 members of the County Commission, a majority vote of the County Commission is obviously 4 out of 7, which would be in the section 4.01, you would need 2 consecutive meetings to terminate the county attorney with 4 votes, whereas you need only 1 meeting of 5 votes. In the case of the county attorney, if we were to address that provision, I would just like you, again, not necessarily right now, but at some point to give us some thoughts on that, because with 12, a 7 to 5 I guess it's not a super majority, but 5 out of 7 is, super majorities can vary 60%, 67%, 75%. So give some thought to that. If you want to provide any direction on that, it would be welcomed for sure from my perspective. Just given the uniqueness of having a 12-member board, is that 8 votes at one meeting? Is it 9 votes at one meeting? What are your thoughts on that? Clearly, I think that if you had 2 consecutive meetings where a majority said to terminate, that would be something that would be, relatively standard. You don't have to respond if you don't want. But.
No, I'll just say the only other thing that I had considered just reading through these provisions and all, again, you have 2 members here and I don't know what their thoughts might be. In theory, the county commission could terminate the county attorney over the wishes potentially of all the constitutional officers. And if the theory in creating this oversight committee was to give the constitutional officers a fair footing, I think that something beyond a 7-vote majority to terminate whoever the county attorney may be might be something that this group might be interested in taking a look at, or again, maybe adding a successive meeting vote. The difficult thing is that, again, those meetings, they really are only regularly scheduled once a year. We could certainly schedule more meetings to accomplish whatever the wishes of that board might be. But again, after those first couple of years, getting those 12 people together can be difficult just because of everybody's schedules, and that's a lot of people. So we only meet once a year now. But I'm happy to kind of put some thought into this and look at, maybe, get my head around it. But I had considered, the county commission can terminate the county attorney, again, potentially over the wishes of all the constitutional officers. And again, it is an odd board because it's even. So you're already looking at 7. But again, I would, encourage you all to consider a supermajority of some sort that would be beyond. But because, it's weird because even the simple majority is a little bit more. Because you have to have 7 out of 12. So it's a little weird from the outset from that regard.
Just thinking this through, so 2016 was the first time this process was put into place as a result of the 2016 Charter Review Committee's recommendation, and then it was passed by the voters. So it was, I guess it's a work in progress. Are there any rules of procedure for this committee or attendance requirements?
They put together rules early on. It's been, I have to tell you, it's a little odd for me personally. The only thing that this board meets to do is to talk about me. So it's a little odd from that perspective. And I, over the years, have shied away from trying to give them advice because it seems like a conflict to me. Wait, I think you were around early on. I think that there were some operating rules put into place. I know that they agreed that the chair of the commission would be the chair and that the most senior constitutional officer would be the vice chair. I can't remember a lot of what went on beyond that because frankly, I need to know who's chair because my office coordinates with the chair every year to make sure the meeting gets set. So, but it's a little awkward for me because again, I don't really want to advise that body and I really don't want anybody on my staff advising that body. So they've, aside from the first couple of years, have kind of been out there sort of on their own with me giving them at least advice on sunshine rules.
And Chair, do you mind if I ask you actually a question about that? So very early on, actually I think I disclosed to the CRC, very early on when this committee had to be put together the first time, I got contacted by then Chair Long, who told me, hey, this is your fault, so you need to come over and advise us how the heck do we do this. So I was representing the committee when it was first starting up and going through the search process when the former county attorney had announced that he was going to be retiring. My recollection at that time, and I was just digging through my notes, is they put together and adopted rules of procedure for that committee and actually also put together and adopted a memorandum of understanding between that committee and the Board of County Commissioners. That may sound weird because the Board of County Commissioners is on it, but they're 2 technically separate bodies, and it is under Florida law, under state law, it's the Board of County Commissioners that has to fund the county attorney in their budget process. So that memorandum of understanding went through and came to the understanding as to how salaries were going to be set and things like this. So there had been that kind of infrastructure put together in the past. I had dropped out in later years of having to do anything because it's all been a very, happy and amicable thing. But I believe it had been, if any legal advice comes up, is it still the understanding that the chief assistant county attorney might do that, or?
He has stepped in on occasion, but again, aside from decisions that would vary the terms of my contract, which has only happened maybe once or twice since I've been hired, that's really been the primary advice that's been given to that board. Certainly if there was something, I felt like getting off kilter, I will tell you, I would probably contact Wade and see if he would be willing to step in if it was something that we just felt too awkward over dealing with in my office. But Wade's correct. It has been my chief assistant, Don Kroll, that has stepped in on occasions like, again, dealing with my contract. Because aside from just getting together and doing a review, it's kind of all that board does. We've had meetings that lasted 15 minutes. We've had meetings that last like an hour and a half. The hour and a half is certainly the exception. By and large, the meetings are pretty quick, and there's not a lot that goes on there. It's, again, not a board that has a lot of legal needs, aside from making sure the meetings get set and noticed and are compliant with Sunshine Law, which I have no problem dealing with myself.
Commissioner Eggers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the reason we don't have too much going on is because we have a good county attorney. But I do think we need to talk about the situation where there might not be a good county attorney in the future, or a problem comes up. And so I guess there was a comment made about a supermajority could be some whatever percent, but I thought in statute it was 67, it was 2/3. It was defined as 2/3. Does anybody know that for sure, how that's defined?
Oddly enough, I actually know this for sure because I was just researching it last week. There is no single definition of supermajority anywhere that I've ever come across in Florida statutes for voting for cities or for counties. Okay. You'll have particular things where it'll say such and such supermajority or this and that, but there's no meaning to the term supermajority in and of itself.
In the county commission, we have 5 as a supermajority. It's about 71%, I guess, it represents, and 4 is a majority. And I think the same kind of approach needs to be for the county attorney. I mean, if you don't have 9 people that support her to hire her, then that's probably not a good match. And it's the same with the county administrator. He has to have 5 out of 7. And this would be 9 out of 12 to hire, and fire, the same thing. 9 or just a majority at 2 consecutive meetings, which would be 7, or 9 in 1 meeting. I mean, I think it's the same approach. I don't know why it would be any different. And to your point about, though the county commission could right now, if all 5 constitutionals really wanted to keep you, it wouldn't matter. And so I think that's another reason to consider this, but I think you should be treated the same way that the county administrator is, so thank you.
And one thing I will say, I don't know how well you guys can read this. It doesn't just say supermajority in regard to the administrator. It specifically says 4 members at 2 consecutive meetings or 5 members. So it picks the number to make it very clear.
9 and 7 is what I was thinking, which kind of is the same concept. Thank you.
Property appraiser Twitty?
Yes, and I would agree with Commissioner Eggers. The only thing I think we would have to determine would be what is the right supermajority number, whether it's 8 or not. 8 would be 66% or almost 67, and 9 would be 75%.
Commissioner Jennings, please.
Just have a thought. If we go down this road, and this really is less a question for Attorney White, maybe more for Commissioner Eggers and Mike Twitty, but does it make more sense to just have a rote supermajority or a certain number of county commissioners and a certain number of constitutionals? Because I did hear Attorney White kind of point out that there could be conflict between those 2 groups, and that's why you want the supermajority. So maybe doesn't have to be tonight, but I'd like to get your thoughts at some point about should it be 8 or 9, or should it be 4 commissioners and 3 constitutionals or something like that.
Just one
Commissioner Eggers,
one final thought to that, and I think you raise a good point. We either look at breaking it down like that, which gets awfully complicated, especially for a ballot. But I do think that the concept of being the 2 consecutive meetings of having 8 does mean that you have to have at least a constitutional officer. For all 7 commissioners had 2 back-to-back meetings, you wouldn't need any constitutional officers. So 8 is just another number that does involve at least one of the constitutionals, and then a supermajority in one meeting would be 9. So I think that's something to think about. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from any of our other commissioners? No? Okay. Any closing thoughts, Attorney White? I mean, this seems to be relatively unique in Florida. Obviously, we're one of only like 20 charter counties, so that's kind of what charter counties do. Sure. That's kind of the experimental zone. But so far, as a member of the public, it seems to be working well. Obviously, we have a very outstanding and excellent county attorney. We've been very blessed with that. So like Commissioner Eggers said, I don't think anybody is looking at this because of any concerns. It's just because it's unique and it was new. So maybe it's like if this is our opportunity to tweak it, improve it. So I don't know if you have any more thoughts tonight. Certainly, we're going to correct the pronoun issue. In section B, if you look at 4.02B, it says he. So we're going to fix that. But that's going to be uniform throughout the charter. But other than that, I didn't really see anything else in there that jumped out at me as a problem. Did you have any thoughts or concerns about it?
No, I already talked to Wade about the one legal issue I would have suggested, which, is really a difficult one. We, as I mentioned, my office will always get together with the chair of the county commission, because that's who's designated as the chair of this committee, to set the meeting. And we always get the question, can we appear remotely? Can we appear remotely? Can we appear remotely? I don't know. Florida law is so weird in regard to the Sunshine Law that it's really not clear if you can just set a board up to appear 100% remotely. I don't know that that's really anything that's probably worth your time to talk about. We've managed to get everybody there. We can have, less than a majority appear remotely if it's voted in. But no, the one thing I would say, I think that this works. Again, I think that my predecessor was a bit concerned about everybody on the committee and how it would work. I think it's worked just fine. The charter did always say that we represented all 5 constitutionals, so there's really no reason to not have them there, weighing in on, the hiring or the future or the retention of their attorney as well. And to the extent that there's conflicts, which it's Pinellas County, we hope it always remains the way it is now. We don't have a lot of conflicts between our constitutional officers. We've managed that in my office over the years by doing multiple representation letters for many of the people that we represent, just to cover that and to cover my attorneys that do that work. And sometimes, and with Mike, like every once in a while, we'll see on, like foreclosure case. Foreclosure is probably not a good idea, but we'll see Mike get drawn into a lot of cases where the tax collector is there, or maybe even the clerk. And it's not that the interests are adverse, but they're all involved in litigation that we're handling in-house. So we've managed that pretty well. We have standing letters of, like I said, the multiple representation, which is the conflict rule, basically under the Florida bar rules. And then when we do have circumstances come up where we do feel like there's a bit of a conflict, we'll either withdraw or have a specific letter as to that representation drawn up. So that's not really about voting thresholds, but just about how we've managed this whole process in the office. I think it works quite well. I frankly like having the constitutional officers there. I think it's fair. I think it gives them an opportunity to speak as to representation. And, we do a lot of heavy lifting for quite a number of them. So I think it's fair to have them there. And I think it's worked well. I think it's worked well for the last 8 years. I do think that it would help to have something in there because, again, it doesn't even give a voting threshold right now. So I think it would probably be helpful to have something in there. Whatever you all come up with, I think it would be helpful.
Okay. Any other comments or questions or concerns? Well, Attorney White, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and helping us get kicked off to our first substantive topic of this review. And if you have any other further thoughts, feel free to communicate them to Attorney Vos or to Mr. Thomas, and let us know, or let Commissioner Eggers or Mr. Twitty know, and we'd be happy to hear from you on any other thoughts for improvements.
Well, absolutely, and I was just going to mention, I do have at least one other thought for something that I think that we would like to, that my office might like to see go in there, that has to do with advertisements for things going on the ballot, and there's conflicts between I wouldn't say it's a conflict. State law requires an ad like the 5th week and the 3rd week before, and the charter requires the 4 weeks running up to the election. So we end up having to run 5 advertisements to comply with both. If you all would consider making the charter a little bit more consistent with state law so that we could still run 4 advertisements, just get us out of having to run 5. We pull calendars out and mark it all up and make sure we're hitting the right weeks and the right days. But I can certainly speak to that at another time, or maybe even just give a little bit more information. I think that last time that the CRC met, we did kind of like a glitch kind of question that was just a cleanup of some things that may not need to be in there anymore. I haven't really studied the charter, but we'll go through it and see if we think there's anything like that that could be cleaned up. Frankly, you've already touched on one of the issues I was going to give you, which was to perhaps address the pronouns throughout the charter. So, but you've already brought that up. So
Already in the queue. Yep.
Yeah, and so that would make advertising for referenda consistent with state law? Is that the general idea?
Well, state law only requires 2 advertisements. So if you want to keep 4, what I would request is that we just make it at least the earlier 2 consistent with state law. And I can provide information on that in the statute number that covers that. I can get that information to Wade. And actually, we've already talked about it a little bit.
Okay, that'd be
And
great.
that particular statute's been the same since, I think, the 50s.
At
So
some time.
one of the few things in the election code that has not changed, so it might stay stable for a while, so we could line it up.
Right. All right.
Thank you, Attorney White. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to item 7. This is just a general topic of other business. We'll get into the dates in the next topic, which also includes a potential cutoff for new topics or new ideas. But does anyone have any new business or new topics or new ideas they want to introduce at this point? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 8. Mr. Thomas, do you want to lead us through that?
Just to do a follow-up, what I heard coming out of the county attorney's comments, and I just want to get consensus that we're at clarity, that there's a desire for us to draft something that perhaps deals with consistency for appointment and removal, similar to what is with the county administrator. We've also heard there some clarity with regards to what those numbers will be, whether that's 7 and 9 or something different. Wade and I can work on getting something put together on what that might look and feel like. And the last piece that I also heard was maybe some clarity with regards to rules of procedure or something with regards to the oversight committee and their roles and responsibilities. I think that's what I was hearing.
I don't necessarily know that getting into the particulars of their procedure or anything is something folks were looking at. That was just kind of just a matter of discussion.
Just making sure they understand what their role is, in a broad sense, I guess. Are we clear on that, or is there a desire to do anything more with that?
Yeah, I think that we just were looking at discussing the removal of the county attorney. 4.01A does say that the county administrator shall be selected and appointed by the affirmative vote of 5 members, which is 58%. Well, it's more than 4, right? So it's more than a simple majority. I don't know if we need to get into. I don't know if we need to get into that with the county attorney. The county attorney says that there should be a county attorney who shall serve at the pleasure of the county attorney oversight committee, which, the way it reads, looks like it means a majority will hire and a majority will fire at any given time. So I guess if you want to look at, do we want to look at the appointment procedure for the county attorney as well as the termination? Commissioner Eggers says yes. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, so I think we're looking at appointment and removal procedures for county attorney. I don't think we're looking into getting into the internal rules or policies or procedures of the oversight committee.
And then I guess as part of the policy discussion, obviously, that the board will have to take at a later point will be what that number is and whether that reflects one or more members of the constitutional officers, right?
Yeah, we can discuss that.
Right. Okay, just want to get clarity on that before we moved on that direction.
And Chairman, to that point, what I think we would anticipate is at a future meeting, when you have other agenda items on as well, that this would be an item come back to you with something put together, drafted with very little bit of mathematical analysis. Hey, these are what these percentages are, so everyone has stuff to work with, and have a little bit more of a discussion to inform, what might final draft look like if the CRC is interested.
Okay.
And then
Commissioner Eggers? Yes, sir.
And just again, I think the numbers are important only in that it gives a chance for the constitutionals to have a say at every level, at hiring and firing in 2 consecutive meetings or just 1 meeting. If we do 7, which is a majority of the group, it could be the 7 county commissioners that want to hire this person and all 5 say no. Well, too bad. And I don't think that's right. So I think that's where the numbers come in, is to give the constitutionals a say.
And the utility of having a draft where the language has been restructured to list specific numbers is, after discussion, you can plug in whatever numbers you want. Yeah, so we're not drafting whole cloth in the meeting.
Okay, well, I look forward to further discussion on that, and we can consider those specifics when we get the draft and have that notice for hearing.
And the only other piece that I noted just to capture was at least something for us to take a look at with regards to the notices for publication to be consistent with state law. I know we've got kind of a cleanup provision, but want to make sure we've captured that.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
we can address that
What
as
I
well.
heard Attorney White say was she was going to provide more information to Attorney Bose on that specific issue.
Okay. We'll make sure that gets added to the list, I guess is what I'm saying, so we
Perfect.
don't lose that somewhere in the midst of it. So, okay, good.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Okay, item 8, discuss and set upcoming meetings. I just checked real quick on my calendar today. All those meetings work well for me. I don't know if you all have had an opportunity to look at those proposed meeting dates. We're proposing to meet twice per month in January, February, and March. And with February 21st being the cutoff for any new issues to be added to the list. Anybody have any issues or concerns with these proposed dates? Yes, Mr. Strickland.
Can I go ahead and be excused from the 21st? Now?
You may be excused from the 21st, yes.
In Tallahassee.
Okay. And you will also be in Tallahassee for which meetings?
So A through E, essentially.
So for almost all of them.
Yep.
If that's unavoidable.
Yeah, I could sit here and tell you I can make a Zoom, but I'm also, realistic to tell you that's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
So.
And also, there's no way, like, moving it from Wednesday to Monday or Tuesday, that's not going to fix the issue.
No, I don't think anybody wants to meet on a Friday. So it just, when we're in session, it's typically Monday through Thursday. So yeah, it makes it very difficult.
Okay. Ms. McCrippen, you had a comment? Sure. Yeah, I don't think you have a microphone, so we won't be able to hear you unless you do. Or online, they won't.
So we were advised by board records that January 10th, the Palm Room is not available. And on February 7th, the Palm Room is not available. I'm sorry, February 7th. I looked for alternate days and times and asked if January 9th and February 6th are available, and they are.
Okay, do we want to go through this now, or do we want to see if Mr. Thomas and Ms. McCrippen can coordinate and get with us via email?
I would suggest it's a lot easier. We have a number of people that aren't here this evening anyway, so it's probably easier to just send a blast out to folks.
Yeah,
and
I
we'll
think
get
that would
those
be the
nailed
fairest
down.
way to go, especially with the members who aren't here tonight. Is everybody okay with that? So stay tuned on future meeting dates. Check your emails. Okay, new business CRC commissioner comments. I wanted to ask and just remind Commissioner Eggers and Mr. Twitty that any comments from your colleagues are welcome. Any feedback from your colleagues are welcome. I know you've already done that and informed them of that and approached them about that in your public meeting, Mr. Eggers. So this is just general comment for any comments, questions, concerns, issues. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Attorney White, just mentioning the notice thing that creates a little bit of a hardship for them. I'm just wondering if, not that I don't have full confidence in the other constitutionals and the commission, but if there are other things operationally within the county that would be worth looking at in that regard. And I just don't know if there's a process to, I don't know if we get with Administrator Burton or whomever, just to see if there's any roadblocks that are created by the charter that we could rectify.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Thomas, you want to address that?
I can address that. Initially, working with the county administrator's office, we put that first, right after we met, we said, have your staff start thinking about if there are issues, operational, procedural, whatever that might look and feel like. I know that staff's been having some of those conversations. We don't have any follow-up yet on that. We do anticipate having the county administrator here in a subsequent meeting to address a couple other topics. And so when that comes forward, if those items are there, but yes, we did have that outreach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll definitely follow up on that for sure. Any other comments? Any other business before we adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, I can send you the contact information for the guy's, the gentleman's name, get his email and cell phone, all that. Okay. Yeah, so I know was